Hey, what's up, everybody? Tim Albrecht here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast, where we feature questions from you, the YFP community, to be answered by one of YFP Planning's fee-only certified financial planners. Before we jump into today's question, I want to give a shout out to YFP Planning's incredible team that makes this segment possible. YFP Planning offers fee-only comprehensive financial planning services that are customized to the pharmacy professional. So whether you want to optimize your investing plan, pay off student loans, or simply build a solid financial plan, YFP Planning will help get your income working for you rather than the other way around. You can learn more by visiting yfpplanning.com. Again, that's yfpplanning.com. Okay, this week's question comes from a member of the YFP community, and they ask, what are your thoughts on deferring student loans during residency in order to create savings and support yourself through the residency year? Tim Baker, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've actually seen a shift in this over the years. So I remember, when we would speak to groups of pharmacists, that maybe had done residency or were currently in residency, you would raise the hand of or you would ask, show of hands, who's currently deferring their loans. A lot of hands would go up. Now, I think that is much, much less so. And I'm not a fan of deferral of the loans during residency for a few reasons. And again, this is not advice. So you can't look at this as a silo. You have to look at other financial obligations, goals, liabilities, things like credit card debt. But in most cases, if you don't defer, you're more than likely going to want to enroll in an income-driven plan, which if you're a PGY1, your income-driven plan is going to be based on the salary that you earned during your P4 year, which is probably minimal, if anything, right? It's probably not much. So what that means is that you're making $0 per month payments, which is significant because it can count if you're going to look at a forgiveness strategy post-residency, which a lot of residents do, because they wind up in not-for-profit hospitals and things like that. The second piece of it is when you're a PGY2, it looks back at your PGY income, which is slightly higher than zero. It's actually, if you make $30,000 to $40,000, that's actually right. The living wage in the United States is kind of right around 35.5, I think. So you're right in the middle of that. But what that payment equates to, based on an income-driven plan, is anywhere from $200 to $300 per month. And I know the answer out there, but is going to, residents are going to be like, but Tim, $200 to $300 per month is it's hard. I can barely swing it with what I'm doing now. And I get it, but at the same time, so we're really talking about 1 year of payment, Tim, because you're going to have $0 payment in PGY1. You're going to have a $200 or $300 payment in PGY2, and then post residency, you're still going to have that $200 or $300 payment, but you're going to be making a six-figure salary more than likely. So we're really talking about 1 year of kind of sucking it up and trying to, again, be an active repayment, which those 12 months count towards a PSLF or a non-PSLF if that's your strategy. But you're also putting somewhat of a dent into, when you defer, you're not paying, but those unsubsidized loans are still accruing interest. So even if you're not in a forgiveness option and you're going to try to be aggressive post-residency, you're still behind the game a little bit than when you were going into residency. So those are the things that, again, I think back in the day, so not too far back in the day, but back in the day, it was don't want to deal with this right now. I'm going to defer. But if you do this right, it really, what I kind of say to prospective clients when we're talking about the student loan issue, if the average is $170,000, $180,000, the spectrum of outcomes with student loans could be where you pay in total anywhere from 80 or 90,000 all the way up to double that. So 340, right. 350. So if you can get this right, you can really nail it where you're not paying that 6% interest. You're paying negative because you're paying 80 or 90,000 on 170 or 180,000. So if you think about it in that context, and you should see the clients that we have that, when they get the forgiveness, it's a weight that is lifted off their shoulder, right? And it's hard for us because this is a future Tim problem. I need to eat today, and but if you can work through this very intentionally and say, okay, for this year, PGY2 year, if you do 2 years of residency, I'm going to try to make sure that I'm in this, I'm in it, and I'm paying that $200-$300 payment. That's going to set you up, I think, very nicely, depending on your situation going forward. And again, every situation is going to be different. So I have to do my typical, it depends. But for these reasons, that's why I would say really take a look at that as you're really looking at a phase 1 and a phase 2 strategy implementation with regard to the student loans. You have your residency and then you have your post-residency strategy. So it can be very nuanced. We talk about how do the investments affect things, your tax situation, if you're married and filing, jointly or separately. There's so much that goes into this that most financial planners trip and fall over themselves because they just don't really have any idea. We see this a lot. So I think, again, it's a great question and it's a common question, but this is one that I would challenge you on again. And that's what we typically do with clients, is challenge you on your kind of base assumptions. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is give advice and recommendations for our clients that, align with, their resources, the income, the time, the savings, and their goals. And for a lot of people, the student loans are something that is the tail that wags the dog for the rest of the financial plan, because of the 6 figures that is typical, that is average for pharmacists that are out there.
Yeah, and a huge shout out, Tim, to the planning team at YFP Planning. They know student loans inside and out, right? Because of the pharmacists that they have helped all across the country, getting in the weeds on this. And just to be, direct, it's not something that is well known in terms of being able to dissect those and really apply the best personal strategy to one situation. And it's complicated, right? Of a system. We've talked about that before many times on the show. I think the thing that comes to mind here, and I've actually talked with several folks about this, deferment of loans during residency feels like one of those blanket pieces of advice that's been out there for, I remember when I went into residency in 2008, that it just is like the thing that people say you should do. If you're in residency, you should defer.
Where's that come from, though?
I have no idea. But I'm just now in the last year starting to hear more of like, hey, maybe that's not the best idea. So I think it's just a good example of, hey, take a step back. Think of the implications of, shutting some of the doors on qualifying payments and some of the other things that you mentioned. And good news is we are seeing an increase in resident salaries, that are out there. So what used to be 30 to 40 is now more 40 to 50. I think we're even seeing a push up towards the 45 to 50 range. So, is that what you're going to be making as a pharmacist? Certainly no, but perhaps more margin that even those small payments can be manageable to keep that door open. So great stuff. I think another example of the time that is well spent in really understanding your student loans, perhaps working with someone that can help you go through that one-on-one and understand that repayment option and plan that's best to your personal situation, and hopefully avoid, what we often hear, which is, hey, I wish I wouldn't have done this, previously. And I didn't necessarily know what was all involved. So one of the things that the planning team at YFP Planning offers is a one-on-one customized student loan analysis that really is intended to help you answer the question of what is the best loan repayment option and strategy for your personal situation. So, of course, much of what we talk about on the show, general education, we've got lots of articles, resources on the website, other podcasts that we've done, but really looking one-on-one, your information, inventorying those loans, looking at the different options that are out there, federal loan forgiveness, non-forgiveness, private refinance, et cetera, and trying to really determine what's that best path for you forward. And you can learn more information about that service at yourfinancialpharmacist.com/SLA. Again, that's yourfinancialpharmacist.com/SLA. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of the Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast. If we feature your question on the show, we'll send you a super comfy YFP t-shirt. You can submit your question by sending an email to info@yourfinancialpharmacist.com, or you can record your question by visiting yourfinancialpharmacist.com/ask-YFP. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your name on the show, you can send or record your question anonymously. As we conclude this week's Ask a YFP CFP episode, an important reminder that the content in this podcast is provided to you for your informational purposes only and is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for investment or any other advice. Information in the podcast and corresponding materials should not be construed as a solicitation or offer to buy or sell any investment or related financial products. We urge listeners to consult with a financial advisor with respect to any investment. Furthermore, the information contained in our archived newsletters, blog posts, and podcasts is not updated and may not be accurate at the time you listen to it on this show. Opinions and analyses expressed herein are solely those of Your Financial Pharmacist, unless otherwise noted, and constitute judgments as of the dates published. Such information may contain forward-looking statements which are not intended to be guarantees of future events. Actual results could differ materially from those anticipated in the forward-looking statements. For more information, please visit yourfinancialpharmacist.com/disclaimer. Thank you for your support of the podcast and have a great rest of your week.